Hey, welcome back to the Mod Golf YouTube channel. I'm Colin Weston, your host, and today my guest is Arjun Chowdri, who is the Chief Administrative and Innovation Officer with the PGA of America. Arjun and I just finished up our podcast episode, so the kind of long form audio piece where had this great conversation. So I'm not going to ask the same questions there because that would be a bit redundant. So I have some other questions I'm going to ask him. I have thousands, but we're going to keep this short. We're going to keep it sharp here and go from there. So we'll start. Arjun, there he is. So welcome back to the Mod Golf Podcast. Long time no
Thanks,
see. It's
Scott.
been at least 5 minutes. How you doing?
Good. Yourself?
Doing great. Doing great. So hey, let's launch right into it here. So why don't you tell our viewers what the heck a Chief Innovation Officer at the PGA America does? So give us your elevator pitch on what you do and why you do it.
Yeah, no problem. So it all kind of starts back with the mission of the organization, right? At our core, we're a not-for-profit trade association of 28,000 members dedicated to growing the game and making those 28,000 members' lives better, right? Those PGA professionals' lives better. So from an innovation perspective, my job is to kind of think through growth and non-traditional opportunities to do just that. So working with my teammates, as I said, the 28,000 members, the 41 sections, and thinking through opportunities that maybe are a little more future forward, from technology to international, to startups, et cetera, that can drive this wonderful game forward.
Nice, nice. And one of the things you had mentioned earlier, and I love this, the fact you, with your experience in other areas, other sports, other industries before you came onto the PGA of America about 9 years ago, is looking outside of this golf box, a very big box in the industry, but to look for opportunities, to look for inspiration elsewhere. So one of the things we talked about was your connection and work with the IPL, which is the Indian Premier League, this professional cricket league. So let's expand upon that a bit. So, what opportunity did you see there? What things are they doing right that golf can apply to formats and engagement with fans and also with players? So let's. I know we touched on that, but let's drill down deeper into that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem. I mean, I haven't been following it to be quite frank for a while, but I'd say the biggest thing they did in the starting point is a willingness to figure out a format that resonated better with consumers and bring that to life, right? And them realizing maybe later than they should have, frankly, that the consumer world has changed and taking multiple days to create an event is not going to work based on the way the global economy and the global consumption works nowadays. And so I think I usually try to think about things as that we're a brand of connections, like that's who we are as a sport. um, we create connections, and it's the most beautiful thing we can do. And when you're a brand that is in a company and organization that is focused on that, there are a couple key things you always need to think about, and it's people, place, and purpose, right? And if we're going to continue to be relevant both to our membership, as well as to the consumer set, and help our membership be relevant to the consumer set, we need to continue to evolve as people evolve there, right? So if you
Right.
think about people, just age demographics, um, diversity, racial demographics, male, female demographics, like um, place, urbanization, although that's changed since COVID a little bit, digital and physical. You think about purpose, right? Family structures changed. And you think about what I think is probably the greatest opportunity for golf, because we've always been there, is our charitable endeavors, right? Like the generations continue to be more purpose driven than ever, which is awesome. And golf has had such a rich history there, and has such a great continued opportunity to grow that further, which is what we're trying to do in some of our enhanced work with PGA Reach, which is our philanthropic arm.
Right, right. So the bit I know about the Indian Premier League also is they managed to condense down the playing time from 5 days originally, and then from what's called 50 overs to this 2020 format to 2.5 hours, which they looked, and I believe they brought in the NFL and some others in as consultants and seeing, hey, if this 2.5 hour or so professional sporting event is what people want between the NBA, NHL, NFL, let's apply that. So, and also that team aspect. So with that, I know you've taken ingredients for that with the work that you do and acquiring next gen golf that connects with young golfers in team formats, and also what you're doing for kids. Why don't you talk about that a little bit, of the initiatives and partnerships you have with your programs to have kids come out and have fun and play on a team rather than the intimidation of being out there by themselves. So why don't you touch on that?
Yeah, no problem. So in 2 weeks we have, the most exciting event in golf, which is the Ryder Cup, and we learned from that, right? And there's a reason it's exciting, and we thought about what children want, right? What they enjoy, and it's really this the social aspect of things is so important, and the inclusivity is so important, and that was really the genesis of PGA Junior League, and it's done incredibly well, right? Just the simple concept of everybody's on a team, you're wearing jerseys, boys and girls are playing together, play scramble format, right? Kids can substitute on 3 holes. It's everything that's been beautiful about Little League baseball, to the point where in October we'll have a championship, and it's now televised on ESPN. And then as you mentioned next gen golf, so incredible work by some entrepreneurs and Chris Hart and Matt Weinberger, and what they were able to create. And again, like, the best startups tend to come from some personal pain point or opportunity that they see, and they both are very accomplished golfers into themselves, but didn't play in college, but wanted to still be involved, and they created Club College Golf right later, and that now expanded to hundreds of universities, which is that incredible. And then they realized is the people that played that graduated and still they moved to kind of young corporate America, and we still wanted to participate in a social aspect that included competition, and they couldn't find how to do it. So they created City Tour, which is geared towards people in their 20s and 30s in cities that want to play in fun team-based events. And then they went down a group, right? And they said, well, there's no one thinking and helping support high school team golf, and what can we do there? So they created a high school kind of rankings property, and now have a high school championship, right? So that's been incredible. And now after acquisition, we created a new product called the PGA National Club Championship that celebrates all of the local club champions and creates this national championship around it. Again, like, golf is this sport of connections, and they took that concept and really blew it out at different ages that spoke to those people in terms of the product they wanted to experience.
I love this, in kind of the entrepreneurial culture that you have been building over the last decade or so with the PGA of America. It's amazing, and you talk about the power of partnerships rather than trying to do it all yourself. So everybody watching out there, if you have an idea and considering entrepreneurship and feeling overwhelmed, do a couple of things that Arjun just mentioned there. It's like, look, observe, listen, ask questions, see what is working elsewhere. Don't create. The worst thing to do in entrepreneurship is create a solution that's looking for a problem to solve, right? And trying to convince people to then like this thing or get on board with this thing. It's like, give them what they want, see what works in other sports. And you've done that. And I love this, what with Chris Hart and the team, and what you're doing to expand on that now, as you said, first with Next Gen Golf and then with City Tour. And we had Chris Noble on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and the work that he's doing with high school golf there. As I love this, it's that entrepreneurial thing that works, is to first figure it out on a small scale, nail it, and then scale it. And now you're scaling it across all of the demographics and applying similar ingredients to that. I love this. I really do.
And that also,
excited about
and I'd also say it starts, like, with the right people, right? As we certainly acquired the products that Next Gen Golf had built in those programs, but equally important was the people in our mind, because they are already applying, as I mentioned, that PGA National Club Championship. They're already able to take their mindset and use it to expand opportunities for the membership.
Love this. So it's you talk about the three P's there as part of your kind of your pillars and your North Star there, and people is just such a key ingredient to to build a culture, and you're certainly doing that. So quickly here, tell us about the culture as it's being not only transformed but more amplified with your new facility in Frisco that's going to be opening up in next spring, I believe. So tell us a little bit about that, about how that facility, the spaces you're creating for collaboration and to really bring people together and the staff, and maybe mention how many people are going to be in that 100,000 square foot facility. So I think a lot of people don't understand. Maybe they think you've got 50 staff at the PGA of America or 100,000 and don't really understand. So talk about that, about the staff you have, who's moving there, and the actual build that you're going to have there that's going to help foster collaboration even more than you already have.
Yeah, I think if you think about the space, right, as a microcosm of what it creates, it's really important. Like, it's like, why is New York City the greatest city in the world? And it was interesting when Seth was on our board when we were doing this headquarters analysis, and this is what he kind of told me. He's like, you all want to create New York, right? Like, how do you create another New York? And why is New York amazing? It's because all these people are bouncing off each other, and ideas just kind of spring from there. And so as we think about the Frisco campus, that's what we think about, right? So it is a public partnership, right, with the community, with the city, with the state, and it's a global destination where people are going to be coming from everywhere. So you naturally have all those consumers and other people who've traditionally loved the game, and also new consumers coming to the game and learning the game that you're going to interact with, see, and learn from, right, and get ideas from. We also have our section, right? The North Texas PGA section. So we are a federated organization of 41 different sections that we can learn from and interact with on a constant basis. That's going to be right next to us. Then we have the actual programmed space, which is very much designed collaborative in nature, but not just collaborative between staff and each other, but staff as well as the future PGA members. So there is an education center built in the first floor. So me as a staff member, I can't help but walk by and interact with future aspiring PGA professionals, and then interact with them at the water cooler. And that kind of connections never happened before, right? And to be able to understand the mindset, really to generate ideas for each other, because they are representing what the future PGA member is, and who and what the future of the PGA will be is those members. So us having that opportunity to really understand on a day-to-day basis what those aspirations are and what those needs and desires are is going to really help drive ideation and deliberate thought as well.
I love this. And Apple and Google have done this for years with their headquarters and their campuses by creating these spaces that encourage, as you touched on, some call it these cultural collisions, people that are from different areas within the business, that you have these conversations, you make these connections, and you get these insights, rather than designing spaces that everybody is siloed and physically separated from each other. So
yeah, I would say the key difference is, right, like we are doing that, but we're taking it a step different because we are a membership organization, right? So it'd be like Apple and Google also having like this giant, Apple user Google store in the middle of them, right? So we also are making sure, like, we're going to have all these collisions with our membership and the people we want to grow the game with, right? So I think that's the difference, where I think we not by any means to say that we are better than Apple or Google, but we are taking a more deliberate approach in terms of who our customers are and who our consumers are, and who our membership that we ultimately are put on, have been created to serve, who they are, so we can interact with them on a regular basis.
Got it. Okay. One last question for you here, even though I've got a ton of them. And this is, I want to talk about the future a little bit, but rather than keeping it kind of open-ended on this, I'm going to focus it down on one question. I've had lots of your members, women, PGA professionals and LPGA professionals on the show. And this is a recurring conversation we've had. The fact that women make up 51% of the world's population, but are not represented equally across golf in most industries. And I believe less than 5% of your PGA professional membership are women. So looking at the future, what initiatives or platforms are you putting in place to try to grow that, so you can strive towards kind of equity and equality over the next couple of decades here, to get more women involved in a professional capacity with the PGA of America?
Yeah, no, I think the first thing, and I would say the same thing goes with other dimensions of diversity, right? We the first thing is recognition, right? Is going like we are challenged here. We need to do better, and we need to be deliberate around that. And I think it also is important to recognize that this isn't something where we can create a new ad campaign one year or something else, and it's just all going to change. It's a really long-term effort. So the first effort is really around PGA Works. I think is an incredible program that we've instituted, which the whole focus is on is diversifying the workforce, because the workforce is, your words, not mine, is primarily you as a middle-aged white male, right? And there is if you want to speak to other different communities, people are tend to be more comfortable to when there are people that also represent themselves, right? In that golf community, right? So, and also, frankly, like, people don't always think about the things that matter otherwise, right? Like they don't. It's just not. It's not for. It's not deliberate on the other person's side. They just don't know what they don't know, right? So they don't. They might not realize that someone doesn't eat X or Y or needs. I was on a call the other day where a woman had developed cleats for women, specialized cleats for women. And my question was, tell me why. And her simple response was, because women's feet are different than men's feet, right? And my response was, that's wonderful, because I'm ignorant to that need, and that's great that you're creating something now for that, right? And those differences we don't always know unless we have someone around us that can help us understand them, right? So PJ Works is a great starting point. We have another program called PJ Lead that brings in more that helps members of diverse backgrounds achieve kind of leadership positions in the association. And again, that drives change as well. We continue to deepen our partnership with the LPGA. They've been wonderful partners on things such as the KPMG Women's PGA Championship, that has really, we believe, elevated the women's game at the most elite level, but is also, with a partner like KPMG, has done efforts to raise it off the course as well through some of the initiatives they've put forth with us. So yeah, we just have to continue to do lots of things for lots of years, and not take our foot off the gas, and we'll get better, piece by piece, and that's as a team, that's what we're kind of all striving for.
Love it, love it. That's the entrepreneurial culture that you've articulated and expressed here. I just love this. And I talk to all entrepreneurs, individuals, not just a big organization like the PGA of America, to embrace certain qualities. And the first one is curiosity and empathy and listening and finding out what people need to really reveal those opportunities to solve problems. And you're certainly doing that. So hey, why don't we wrap up there, because I really want to encourage our viewers to become listeners also, because you and I had an amazing conversation. We talked about so many other things, about your personal background, connection to entrepreneurship, and other things that the PGA of America is doing. So why don't we leave this at that? I will include down below in the notes some of the links that you had mentioned, not only to the PGA of America, but also to PGA Works and some of the other things that you mentioned. And why don't we leave it at that? So,
Awesome.
Arjun Chowdri, Chief
Thank you, Colin.
Administrative and Innovation Officer with the PGA of America. Thanks for joining me a second time today on the Mod Golf Podcast.
Awesome, Colin. Thank you so much for having me. Take care.